Shabbat Shalom. In our Parashat Shelach, we have the famous story of the spies. The spies that are sent by the Jewish people to scout out the land of Israel, and they come back and they tell tall tales of how difficult it will be to conquer the land of Israel, and the Jewish people cry famously. And according to Chazal, this also happens on Tisha B'Av, bringing together all of the tragedies of Jewish history, a very important and crucial story in the narrative of the Jewish people leaving Egypt and entering the land of Israel. But in this week's parasha, we also have a second story, which I think is equally as important, and it very often does not get as much attention. In our parasha, after the Jewish people are told that they are no longer going to enter the land of Israel, and that they're going to wander for 40 years in the desert, we find that the Jewish people responding with, to a certain degree, you might even be able to say, a certain sense of lack of belief. And that this is you could even say sometimes it is the unwillingness to accept their fate. Lack of belief that this is their situation. And this is a story of the Ma'apilim. We find indeed that the Jewish people wake up, וישכימו בבוקר, ויעלו אל ראש ההר לאמור, הננו ועלינו אל המקום אשר אמר השם כי חטאנו. We feel bad. We messed up. Last night was something we should never have done, all of this crying and moaning about the future of the Jewish people. Now it's time to actually, we're ready. Alon na'aleh, as the good Meraglim, Yoshua and Kalev, said, we can do this, we can conquer, we can go up. And indeed the Ma'apilim say, let's do this. Let's go up. Hinenu ve'alinu. And as Moshe says, Vayom Moshe, lama ze atem ovrim et pi Hashem vehi lo titzlach. That time has sailed. That boat has sailed, and no longer are you able to now just push through. You have to go through the whole 40 years in the desert now. You can't just jump straight into Aliyah La'aretz. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's depending on how the way you see it, the Ma'apilim in modern Hebrew have been hijacked by the group of people that decided to take their name, but in a more positive light. The Jewish people, after the Second World War, tried to bring as many Jews as they could into the land of Israel. And despite the fact that the British mandate had closed the gates and was not allowing any more Jewish immigration, there were a whole bunch of ships, famously the Exodus, they made a movie about it, that tried to break through the blockade and bring Jews to the land of Israel. And one of the names that this group of people who tried to break through the blockade and come to the land of Israel was the Ma'apilim. So today Ma'apilim has a very modern, positive Zionist context to it. But originally in the Torah, the Ma'apilim were those who decided to push through, to go for broke, even though it was not the time, even though this was not what they were supposed to do. So I want to take a moment to juxtapose these two extremes, the extreme pessimism of the Meraglim and the extreme optimism of the Ma'apilim. The pessimism of the Meraglim is in many ways all of those people saying, it's never going to work. It won't work because of X, because of Y, because of Z, because of this reason, because of that reason. These people will never give us permission. Those people will never allow. That program will never work out. That funding will never come through. All of the negativity that exists, that very often they made good points. The Meraglim didn't make any false points. But the general concept was trying to, bring down the expectations and bring everyone into a state of pessimism and cynicism that completely undermines any new initiative. The other side, the other extreme, is over-optimistic optimism. This idea of, we can do this. Yes, there is no way to do this, but we're going to force it through. This fanaticism of we're going to push, and we're going to push. And even though Moshe Rabbeinu himself is saying this is a bad idea, God is not with you, and we saw the end of the Ma'apilim is that they got slaughtered by the inhabitants of the land, the Amaleki and all the other people. They were completely decimated. So both extremes, the extreme pessimism and extreme optimism, are not the right way forwards. So what's the answer? The answer is somewhere in the middle. The Rambam himself says famously in Hilchot Deot, one should always try, echoing the Aristotelian golden mean, try to always find the middle ground, try and be balanced. Not to this and not to that, not too right wing, not too left wing, not too extreme on this side and not too extreme on that side. And I think today we live in an age where everything is very, very easily polarized. You can very easily be on this side or on that side. You're very anti-X or very pro-X. You can be very anti whatever it's politics or pro this party, anti that party, pro this candidate, anti that candidate. And it's very easy to find ourselves being meraglim or ma'apilim. The question is, how do we stand in the middle? How do we stand with Moshe Rabbeinu, with Yoshua ben Nun, the level-headed, to understand, yes, we need to do it, but not right now, and you have to be more pragmatic. That is a challenge that the Parsha is hinting to us that we should try and achieve. And I want to bring into this a very interesting idea that is shared by the Hasidic masters. The Sfat Emet, and I think this also appears in the Admar Hazaken, in Likutei Torah, and later in Likutei Sichot and stuff like that, of the Hasidic Chabad masters, that the idea is, one of the interesting twists of the Kabbalistic tradition says that the Meraglim, the spies, actually did not want to enter the land of Israel because of Bitul Torah. Because if we came into the land of Israel, we would leave the desert. And the desert is the ideal place to study Torah. In the desert, there are no enemies. There are no distractions. The food is all catered for. Everything is, fundraised for. And you can just sit in the air-conditioned Ananei HaKavod in the Mishkan and just learn Torah. And so the Meraglim say, the Hasidic masters, they didn't want to enter the land of Israel, and then you have to start deal with agriculture and fighting and the army and settling and all of the bureaucratic things that come with building a state. They said, no, let's just stay in the desert and learn Torah. Now, this was a mistake, even though maybe their heart was in the right place. But the recognition that one needs to sometimes take a stand, one needs to sometimes actually leave that cotton wool, Ananei HaKavod, Mishkan setting. You need to leave the factory and go out into the real world. That is a challenge in itself. And I think if we try and take these two messages from this parasha, the first message is a message of balance, of trying to understand, is this the right time? Do we need to resettle Gaza? Do we need to completely, end the war? These two extremes that just give up and just sign any deal that comes from these extremes that are constantly being, thrown across the airwaves on all media platforms. We have to recognize, wait a second. We don't want to be Meraglim. We don't want to be Ma'apilim. We don't want to be extreme on this side. We don't want to be an extreme on that side. Where do we stand? That's a good question. And good questions don't have soundbite answers. And secondly, when it comes to the importance of the land of Israel, yes, sometimes we might be comfortable in, as we call it, the comfort zones. We might have a benefit to the Mishkan, the Midbar. It might be dangerous to step into the future of the Jewish people and actually go to the land of Israel where we're supposed to go to. And yet the answer is sometimes we need to actually take that leap, and we need to do that. How? To what extreme? Do we become Ma'apilim? No, but that is another challenge that we need to ask ourselves. So that is just one way, two ways that the Parsha really talks to us in our modern day and gives us a very important message that we can try and internalize in our own daily lives. Shabbat Shalom.